Okay, I think I may have got it now. I was having technical difficulties as usual. Okay. Hi, Diane. I was having some problems here. I think I've got it okay now. My computer decided to take a crap, so I'm using my husband's laptop along with my cell phone camera, and I'm hoping, I don't know, can you guys hear me? Okay, let's see here. I am not seeing comments. Just bear with me a minute, okay, guys? Um, oh, maybe it's fine. I don't know. Can you hear me okay, though? Can hear. Okay, great. Thank you, Diane. Okay. Yeah, I got kind of discombobulated because I've been having computer issues on my laptop, and I like to have the laptop going at the same time that I'm doing the video so I can read the comments off of the laptop, only I'm not seeing comments on the laptop, but I do see them on the cell phone. So here we go. No. Okay, anyway, I'm on, so hi you guys. Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate how I apply color to swipe lefty on but on my laptop? No, that doesn't work. It's a Facebook, yeah, it's always a Facebook thing. Okay, anyway, today I'm going to apply color on enamel pieces, and these are the two examples that I have for today. And just did a pretty simple snowman. You don't really have to have any artistic skills, I think, because I don't have any. As far as painting goes, I can do a color by number, that kind of stuff, and stay in the lines. But to do stuff freehand, I don't have too much skill that way. So yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm using acrylic enamels mainly. And what I mean by that, if you don't know, is they come in little tubes like this. And I got these from Thompson Enamel. I also got some from paintingwithfire.com. No, not .com anymore. They're on Etsy. But I have a love-hate relationship with these. I think that they work great, except they dry up in the tubes fairly quickly. So, and that's a real problem because I think like a set of 6 or 7 of these is like, I don't know, $70, something like that. It's a lot of money to have dry up on you. So, these I didn't salvage in time. These are kind of rock hard in here, but I think what I'm going to do is take a craft knife and cut through the tube and kind of scrape out the paint inside. And then what I had done on others, I haven't used the paints in a long time, so I kind of forgot about doing that with these last tubes. But what I did with the other ones that I had previously is I got a set of empty paint pots that you can get at the craft stores, and I think you can get them on Amazon as well. I always mention Amazon to look for stuff, but because if you can't find it locally, more than likely you can find them on Amazon, but generally you'll pay a little bit more for the convenience. you know, so I mean, I guess that's reasonable. But it's fine if they dry up. It's just being able to get to them. So that's why if you squeeze the stuff in these little paint pots before they dry up, you have an easy way to access the paints. And what I will do is just open up the pot and put a few drops of water in there and kind of reconstitute it a little bit, just enough to scrape some out of the pot. And once I do that, I generally put them in a little paint palette like this. And if you don't have one of these paint palettes and you decide you want one, get one that has a lid. It's not completely airtight. Stuff will still dry out in here, but actually the paints that are in this little tray, I can reconstitute these little little dabs of paint so you don't waste it. So if you just add a little bit of water to it, you can still salvage them. So get one with a lid if you have the opportunity. Okay. Yeah, Diane, I would have to be enameling all the time to keep them from getting dried out, and that's just not me, because I like to do too many different things. But like I said, I can still salvage what's in here by cutting them open and scraping the stuff out. It's just be a messy job though. So the set, I think when you buy the set, I think they come in, there's 2 different shades of white. I know that seems weird, but one's a titanium white and one's an antimony white. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. And then there is green and red and blue and yellow and orange. And then you can buy additional colors in the rose pink and purple and something else. I can't remember. But anyway, these are the acrylic enamels. Okay, so yeah, it would be really bad if you couldn't at least get most of your money's worth out of these because of the expense. So you would think that they would come up with something a little bit more, I don't know, practical, you know, since they have a tendency to dry out. So anyway, so that's that. And then there are watercolor enamels, paints. Okay, and these, oh, here's another one. These come in, let me tip the screen down a little bit. These come in these little pots already, little paint pots already. And I thought I was being clever by putting them in a jar and having another cover over them to keep them even more prone to not dry out, but that obviously doesn't work either. So the watercolor paints I haven't had that much experience with yet, but they are, from everything I've read, comparable to the acrylic enamels. Although being watercolors, I would think that the difference is, you know how watercolors are generally more pastel, more, maybe not quite as vibrant as the acrylic enamels are. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of my take on it. These also are dry when you open them up. They might be semi-creamy, but mostly they're dry. And then you just add some water to them and reconstitute these as well. But I'm going to be working with the acrylic enamels today, okay? But this is also another good good way to decorate your enamel pieces. So I'm going to put these back in the jar. I'm probably going to use the black from this because I don't have much. The black that I have, I didn't have a chance to take that out of the tube. I poured a few drops of water inside here, and I've just kind of been taking some out with the toothpick So I may do that today. I don't know. But the key is to not put the enamels on too thick. If you put them on too thick, they don't dry well. And then when you go to torch fire them, they can kind of pop a little bit if they're not totally dry, or you get where they spread out. Like this is a great example of how it shouldn't look. Where's the other one? Oh, this guy's eyes are big, but they're okay. They're not too big. This guy's eyes are huge, and I don't know if you can see very well, but it's like the enamel kind of spread out farther. And I guess that's based on the size of the dot that I put. So I don't think I'm explaining that quite right. But on the new one that I'm going to torch fire in a few minutes, this one, his eyes are much smaller. So hopefully they won't spread quite so far, because I don't think this is a nice look, but the smaller I think looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so all right, so those are the enamels, and you're going to mix them with water, but you'll see how I do that when I get to that part. The first thing I need to do is get the copper shapes prepared. Okay, so I've got some 1-inch circles already cut out, and I have a little snowman template, not a template, but I have a powder pancake die that is the snowman shape. But I think I told you last time on last week's demo, the original pancake die has 3 of the snowballs on there, and I cut the top one off because I just proportionately I didn't like it so much, and I wanted to be able to draw a bigger face than that small little ball would have allowed. So I just cut that top one off and just made him a two-ball snowman. Okay, as it should be. So anyway, most of you won't have that powder pancake die. So what I did was I just traced this little guy, and he's in the back of the handout. So you'll be able to just trace that out, and you can just use a pair of metal shears. And I would recommend for enameling that you go with 24 gauge copper. It is a lot easier to cut with your shears, to cut to the shape that you want, or you can cut with a jeweler saw if you like doing that. I don't care for sawing too much, so if I can cut it out, I will. But sometimes you just have to use a saw. But anyway, this makes it available, or more available, for a lot of people to be able to do it in this way. Okay, so you cut your little pieces out, and then you put the holes in. I use this 2-hole punch a lot. You can use just about any hole punch, but the reason I like this one is it has a 3/32 hole in it, which gives you a fairly decent size hole. If you use the other end, I think it's a 1/16, that's a very tiny hole, which would be okay, except when we're enameling, when we're doing the immersion method of enameling, we're putting this piece on a mandrel, and you don't want the enamel to stick or fill that hole. So a little bit larger hole is better, because you might have a hard time putting a jump ring in if you've got too much enamel filling that hole. That's the reason behind that. Okay, so I've punched out a couple of those discs, and when you're doing a circle, you don't have to judge too closely where you put it, except you don't want it too close to the edge so it doesn't break through the metal on the edge. This one's getting a little stiff. But yeah, I mean, try not to get too far, too close to the edge and not too far below, because then your jump ring will be too short to fit into that hole to hang properly. Okay, so do that, and I'm going to do the snowman. Got all these little copper things stuck in here. All right. And as always, I eyeball where to put the hole. So the first step is preparing your metal. Then we're going to torch fire it, get the white background on here. Okay, so I'm going to move over to my torch, and I will move, whoop, let's see, okay. All right. Okay, I have to switch chairs here. Bring my camera in a little bit so I can reach it. Okay. All right. Now, I have two different ways that I do this. Oh, hang on. Okay, I've got, like I showed you in a previous, I guess it was last week when I did the circles in enamel. I'm using a propane gas canister and a hothead torch head for this. And I am using a bead pulling station, which I explained in one of my other demos, to have easy release for the pieces once they are hot on the mandrel. You don't want to be touching anything. So let's see here. I don't think I've got my positions too good. All right. Okay. All right. Hey, Gwen. I'm discombobulated today, as usual, actually. Okay, so I have my glass water jar with my mandrel in here. And I believe this is a 3/32 mandrel. And that is so that it fits through this hole nicely. Okay, and then I'm using foundation white. It's an opaque. It's 1030 is the number. It gives a nice good white coverage. So I've got this that I'm setting up. I've got my matches. I have my utility pliers just in case I drop it on the floor, because that can happen. It has happened. And I think I explained everything. I've got my pieces. When you're torch firing, you want to make sure that you have the back of the piece facing you. You don't want this hot flame pointed on your the front of the piece, because it can discolor it, it can scorch it. So you want the massive heat from behind it. Okay, so when I turn the torch on, it's going to be very loud, and you probably won't hear me talk, but it's very brief, and then I'll shut it off and then show you what I did, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to enamel the 1-inch disc first, and then I'm going to do the little snowman guy, and then we'll talk again. All right, so got my matches right here. Light my match. I'm going to put my match at the very lower lip of the torch head. Otherwise, the gas will blow out the match. I'm going to turn this on. There we go. enamel can on my left hand and my disc on the mandrel. I'm going to heat the disc up until it glows orange, which is pretty quick. Give it a quick dip in the enamel, tap it on the side to get excess off, and then back into the flame. You're going to heat that until it starts to glow orange again. And then dip it again. Now, ideally, you want to keep the disc on the mandrel about 1/4 of an inch from the end of the mandrel. Otherwise, all this mandrel sticking out here interferes with you putting the piece into the enamel. So this is where the bead pulling station comes in very handy. I will, I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll move it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to rewarm this. I'm just going to scoot it up in that bead pulling station. I'm just scooting the disc up a little bit to reposition it. Dunk it again. You want it to totally coat your piece. Put it back in the flame. Scoot it back up. I'm going to give it one more coat. Now in this case, I've got an awful lot of enamel stuck on the end of my mandrel. So what I'm going to do is I'm turning the mandrel and bringing that piece, the disc, down towards me very carefully and slowly. And now I'm going to grab my utility pliers and just take that down. Okay? Then I am going to, see I've got a lot of enamel on that mandrel, and I need to get that off. So I put the mandrel back into the flame, heat it up, and then I put it in the jar of water and the enamel cracks off very easily, okay? All right, so this piece is very hot right now that I just did. Woo, slippery little sucker. All right, so the front is nice and white. The back is not so great. It's a little bit gray, but that's why you fire from behind. So you keep the front nice and white, okay? So I'm gonna set that to a side, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the little snowman. I hope, okay, you can see the bead pulling station. This hooks underneath to, you can put on your work surface, I have like an aluminum pad, like a heat-proof pad on my table. Or you could use a ceramic tile, and it's got this little lip on the back that you can hook into the tile or onto your heat-proof surface so that it doesn't move when you're pulling your piece. I don't know if I can explain that better or not. Okay, I think you guys can see where it's up there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the snowman, and then we'll talk. All right. So on my clean mandrel, I'm putting my snowman on here, and my matches. Okay. All right, do this again. Coat is very important to get an even coverage. This one I'm going to take off using the bead pulling station because I was conscious not to put too much enamel on the tip of that mandrel. So this should come off a lot easier. If it doesn't want to come off, that means you have to heat up the mandrel a little bit because there's too much enamel on it, on the hole. Okay. Okay. So there is the snowman. Okay. So now I'm going to let those cool off a minute. Switch positions here, switch chairs. Okay. All right. You know, the gas is running low, Deb, but there's still plenty in there to do what I'm doing. It does sound really weird because I replayed these before to hear what I sounded like and all that. And it's weird how it goes from real loud on the video, then it kind of like sounds like it's kind of bubbling or burbling or whatever. It's weird because it sounds all the same here, but for some reason, recorded, it sounds different. Okay. So let's see. So what I did was I heated up the enamel. You know, when you first put it on, it's real powdery and it starts to go through a couple of different stages. As it melts, it looks like sand, kind of grainy, and then it looks more like an orange peel. And then from that stage, it goes to smooth. You want that the finish on your enamel to be very smooth. No bumps or lumps or anything. It should be really smooth and slick. That's when you know you've enameled properly. Okay. And, you know, like I said, I was trained with the immersion method. So this is the method that I mostly use when I do enameling. Once in a while, I'll use the tripod, or sometimes I'll use the kiln. Just depends on what technique I'm doing. But I like the fact that when you do immersion method, you don't have to have clean metal. You can have Sharpie marker on it. It could be oxidized, whatever. You don't have to worry at all about that. And you don't have to counter enamel, because you're actually counter enameling at the same time, front and back, on the torch, which you can't do that in the other methods. So, you know, it's just, to me, it's a lot easier, faster, and I get the results that I want pretty much all the time. So, so I'm good with that. So now comes the fun part of painting. I have two pieces that, of course, I already did because I didn't want to wait for those others to cool, although they probably are by now. But these are the snowman body and face. And the backs don't look too bad. It just, sometimes it depends on how close you get to the back of the flame, that you might get some discoloration on the back, but that really doesn't matter because the front is what you care about primarily. The back should look nice, but sometimes you can't avoid some of that. Here's one that got a little toasty on the back. It's got kind of like a little bluish cast on there, but to me, I don't think that that's anything to really worry about. So, okay, so now comes the painting time, and I have a fairly fine paintbrush. I like to use this for finer detail work, you know, for getting in little small places. I will use this. I will use my paint palette, and for this guy, I have already a little bit of blue and red, black and orange. Those are the only four colors I need for this guy. Although you can do them however, you can make his scarf however. You don't have to put a scarf on him. You can design and paint however you like, whatever appeals to you. So, like I said, I've got my paints in my paint pot. I probably have enough here that's left over on my paint palette to work with. I have water. I have a little water cleaning bowl, a little brush cleaning bowl here. I have some toothpicks. I also like these little craft sticks. I don't know what they're called, but they're very small. They got a point on one end and they're rounded on the other. It's not necessary to have these. Just like when I bought the box, there was like a gazillion of them in there, and they're actually not a bad size for the little paint pots, but you can use whatever you have. So I had reconstituted some of this paint yesterday, and here's my paint stick, my orange one. And it's fairly thick, if you can see that. When it comes out of the tube, it's fairly thick, and I think it's too thick really to work with. So, you know, you just put a little bit of that in your paint well, in the paint palette. I already have some in there, so I don't really need to put more, but I can still use this up. All right. Then, let's see here. I'll get my paper towel. You want to add your water in very, just a little bit at a time. So one of these little, I don't know what you call it. God, I only worked with these forever in the dental business. Little syringe, there we go. Just a little drop at a time, because you can make it too watery. And then mix it all up. So I've got the orange for his nose. And that's still a little bit thick. Hi, Karen. I'm using acrylic enamels from Thompson. They come in little paint tubes like this. So you see I'm just reconstituting or thinning the paint down a little bit. All right, and the black I'll probably have to add a little bit more because that I just got out of the tube. And I'll have to do my surgery on this tube later on and get the rest of this out so it will be easier to access. All right, so I've got my 4 colors that I'm using, and I think I'm gonna give me a little sip. Oh, hi, Rhonda. All right, my buddy. All right, so now, oh, I want that paper too. All right, so now I'll start with the little face. I hope you guys can see okay. Bring the camera down a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to put his eyes fairly high because you want to be able to get everything in there and get his smile and stuff in there. So I'm going to dip my brush in lightly just to pick up a little bit of the black. And just draw on 2 little eyes. Remember not to make them too big because they spread a little bit. That might be even a little bigger than I should go. And if you don't like it, you can just wipe it right off on your paper towel and start over again. You just don't want it too thick either because it takes too long to dry. And then, like I said earlier, I don't think they fire as nicely. All right, so I've got his little eyes on. Just clean out my brush. And try to get the water that's, if you get water on your brush up higher, get it off because it inevitably will drip down on your piece while you're painting and then you'll be unhappy. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is his nose. And a little carrot nose is not as difficult as you might think if you've never done one. It's hard to hold this, but I'm trying to get you to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to draw a little line and then stretch him out No, I have to put him down. Okay, so he has a little garret going off to the side, wider at the end, the base end there, and then just bring him out kind of like a long pointy triangle. Clean my brush again. I mean, this is really pretty basic. And then give him some little black dots for his mouth or his smile. Ah! Rats. Okay. Well, I think I'm just going to start him over again. I kind of scratched him a little bit when I dropped him. That's why it's probably best to work on a flat surface, steady surface, rather than holding him in your hand. But it's hard to do and show you. Well, I guess I could try. Actually, let's see. I don't know, that's not really much higher. But that way, it might be a little bit more stable. All right, and do this nose again. You can give them as big or little schnoz as you like. It just depends on what you like. All right. So his nose is on, and now for his mouth. Oh, I don't like that. I spaced him out weird. Okay. You get to see me do all my weird stuff. Here we go. I'll do that again. Yes, I do have a melted snowman on the paper towel. That was that water drip that came down. Okay. All right. Will you work this time? All right. That's a little better. All right. So got his little face on. Okay. So now I'm going to set him over to dry. You could put him on a cup warmer if you wanted to. If you don't apply too much paint, you should be okay. They should dry relatively quickly. but if you want to make sure they're nice and dry before you fire them, you could put them on a hot plate. Okay, now for the snowman, the one with the body. We'll give him 2 little eyeballs. And his nose. This guy I'm making a little bit smaller because he's got a smaller head than the other one. And I want to put a scarf on him, so I don't want to start his face too low. Okay, so got his face. Now for his scarf. All right, if you go crooked a little bit, it doesn't matter so much because you can use a toothpick to scratch off any crooked lines with that. I find that that works pretty well, but you have to have a fairly steady hand. Chrissy, this is not. We used liquid enamels on the skulls when we did those. This is a little bit different. Give him his little coal buttons there. Okay. And now I'm going to put a little red in his scarf too, just to give him a little bit more color. But if you can paint, if you can draw and you can paint, you can go crazy with these things. You can do all kinds of really cool designs. I'm kind of limited in that area, so I'm just doing some real basic stuff here. You could wait until this, the blue isn't totally dry, but it's getting there. But you get the idea, it's just using this just like paints, only it's enamel. When you get the tubes, sometimes when you're taking the paint out of the tubes, when you squeeze it out, sometimes there's this clear liquid that comes out with the paint. And I guess that must be sort of like a binder or something. At first I removed it. I thought, what's this doing in there? I didn't think that needed to be in there. But then I had read about it, and it said that it was some kind of resin, I guess to mix the material better. So I thought, well, I'll leave that in the next time I see that. But I don't really know. I mean, because all this enamel that's in this tube, it just, there doesn't appear to be any of that stuff in there. So maybe it just mixed in when I transferred them all to the paint pots. All right, so I've got his scarf done, but he's got some crooked lines on the scarf that I'm just going to clean up just a little bit. I don't want to get crazy, because when you try to do it real perfect, sometimes your hand will move and then you'll scratch your whole paint job. And I'd rather have it a little bit more imperfect than messed up. So the little fringe, I'm just kind of straightening those out a little bit. Kind of just blow that away, the excess. And then he's ready to dry and then fire. So it's pretty easy, for at least for this guy. But I've done other pieces, other cutouts, and applied the paints to them, and they look really nice. You can do all kinds of different designs on there. All right. So I have already done a couple that are dry, so I'm going to go ahead. I'll just set these to the side. But now I'm not sure which one of these guys I just did. I think this was from yesterday or last night that I painted him. I'm just going to adjust his eyeball a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch seats, and then I'm going to fire these. And if you have any questions after I fire these two pieces, then I will look at any comments and answer any questions or concerns about the process of the torching process. If you have any questions on that or any others on the enamels, we can go from there. All right, so I'm going to switch seats again and hopefully not drop the camera. All right. Now, the other thing, when you're torch firing these, because the enamel has cooled, I have to disconnect here just a second here. Okay, because the enamel has cooled, we want to reintroduce the enamel pieces slowly into the fire, gradually. So you want to, here's the torch head right here. Okay, it's not hot anymore. I thought it might be. So when the fire comes out, we want to go way up here where the fire isn't touching it, but it's hot. It's hot up there, warm. And then we're going to gradually bring that piece down till it gets to the flame, and then it can fire properly there. But if you just put the piece in real close to the flame when you reintroduce it, more than likely your enamel is going to chip or pop off. So you want to start it slow. And I just realized I only have two matches in this box. So if that doesn't cut it, then I have to get up and get another box of matches. Because I can't think of all these things ahead of time. I don't know why. I guess my brain just doesn't work that way. All right, so I'll get these two pieces off, bring my current pieces that I want to fire here. I've got my mandrel. And you do not have to put any other coat of enamel, like a clear coat or anything. You don't have to do that on top of the paint. The paint will turn shiny because it is enamel. So it's perfectly sealed just the way it is. All right, so now for the loud babbling noise again. Carefully, I'm looking at it from the other side. Check on it. This is the hard part, is trying to see when it's fully fired. If you're not certain and you want to turn it over, you can grab onto your pliers and turn it and look. And that way it won't fall down on your hand. Just going to give it a little bit more. And he looks good. So I'm just removing him in the bead pulling station. Let him go down there. I'm going to leave whatever enamel might have been transferred to this mandrel on. I'm not going to quench it because that little extra enamel on there will help hold on to this guy. Oh, and check the back and the sides of your piece before you fire. Make sure you don't have any paint that got transferred on the back, which I just noticed this guy has a little bit of. So I'm warming him up. I'm going to bring him down closer. Because there's some enamel on that mandrel, I'm able to hold him like this, although it's kind of a dicey way to do it. If you have too much flame on your mandrel, you can also burn your mandrel off. And I know that from experience. My gas is just about going out on this torch, so that's why he's not heating up as fast as he should be. See if I can get this last little bit to get shiny. It's almost there. But if I had a little more heat behind this torch, it would be quicker. So now he's stuck onto the mandrel a little bit, so I'm warming up the spot right by the mandrel so that I can take him off. Get that excess enamel off the mandrel and quench that in the jar. Okay. So, oh, neither one of them landed in the basket. Okay. All right. So here's the Snowman. Now, these guys stay hot for a little while, so you want to be careful. My pliers have kind of bent with the heat. I need to fix those. All right, so here's, hello. Okay, so he's done. And this guy still needs to cool off somewhat. And as he cools, the colors will come out a little bit brighter. It just takes a little bit of time. Whoa. And that's why you have your pliers around. So make sure, because inevitably, I drop stuff like all the time. It's a problem. I don't know why, as I get older, I've just become really clumsy. I was never, I don't know, graceful, but I have really become clumsy as I'm getting older. So, do we have questions about any of this? So I just did these two pieces to show you, but I've got leftover enamel, so I'm just going to cover it up. And even if I didn't use this again for a few months, I could still add some drops of water to this and reconstitute it. So I would save every bit of these paints that you can. It's just, it just makes sense because the stuff's so expensive. So keep that in mind if you buy the paints, and I really do like the paints. I don't want that to be a turnoff for you guys to say, well, they dry up, you know. But you get some really good colors with the acrylic enamels. I mean, but the watercolors are good too, like I said, but I guess I haven't really used them hardly at all since I got them. I got them a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but maybe a year or so ago. And I really haven't done much of anything with them. But if you know me, I'm kind of like all over the place with different techniques. So, you know, I may not get back to a certain technique for a long time, but that's kind of the fun of it. It's like when you go back to something, it's like all brand new again. So at least that's how I look at it. So, you know, the beauty is with the immersion method is you don't have to clean the metal. You don't have to give it a counter enamel coat. You can do it all at one time. There's lots of possibilities with it. Any questions? Comments? concerns on the technique? The bead pulling station, I think, is a nice thing to have if you're going to do immersion method. Maybe not so much for flat things, although it is very useful for flat. I tend to use my long nose utility pliers for a lot of stuff with the flat, but that is kind of living dangerously, so I don't want to say that's the way to do it. It could be because you want to be safe, and I don't want to seem irresponsible, but for me this works, using it that way. But if you're going to do beads, like I showed a few demos back, the copper beads and the iron beads, you definitely need the bead pulling station for that, because there is no other way to get those beads off of there. So can you do a flower in the immersion technique? Absolutely you can. You absolutely can. The thing with that is, you saw how I kind of turned my mandrel over. It had a little bit of enamel stuck on the mandrel, and then that piece kind of sticks to the mandrel a little bit. I would put my piece in that position, take my tweezers and a little Murini and put it on there and melt it a little bit, and then turn it over and fire it. But really keeping it more level and having that heat underneath it will help the flower stretch out. If you have it hanging, there's a tendency that Murini will kind of drip, kind of fall down a little bit. So if you can keep it more level, that will work. But I have put Murini on tons of flat objects, and even on the beads. We can go over that sometime too. Next week, I'm going to be doing decals on flat pieces of enamel. So if you remind me or whatever, I will pull out some Murini and add one or two, and you can see how it's done that way. It to me, visually learning is so much better than reading out of a book or a magazine, or just being able to see what you're talking about makes more sense to me. That's kind of how I operate. Chrissy, do you have to cover the completed piece before you paint it? Do you have to cover it? No, this is like on this little guy, he's only got the paint, for his features. And you mean like a back coat? Okay, I mean, you have to have enamel on your copper piece. You have to have that first. You can do a different shade if you want to. It really just depends on what your color scheme is going for. A lot of times, if you choose a darker background, what you paint on top of it is not going to be as true to the colors as if you were doing something on a light background. Okay. I hope that is what you meant, Chrissy. I'm not positive. Karen, can the decals be torch fired? Yes, they can. That's how I do it. I will show you how to do that. I've been working on that too this week, so that I'll have it ready for you guys next week. I'll show you a preview of what I'm going to do for the decals, and this is with purchased decals, and I will have a couple of resources for you of where you can buy your decals. And when you're confident with that, then you can make your own decals if you want. That's a whole nother ballgame. So these are, Chrissy, I've never, I had a feeling that might have been what you meant. I've never done that on raw copper. That would probably be a good thing to experiment with and see what happens. But your copper is going to turn dark when you apply the heat to it. So, it would have to go in the pickle, and You know, the pickle might eat that paint off because that's not very thick. So I don't know. I mean, you could put a clear coat on your copper first. You could probably do that. Maybe I'll play around with that a little bit and see. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe if you put a clear coat, it won't be exactly, I mean, it won't be like painting on raw copper exactly, but I don't know. Let me mess around with that, Chrissy. All right, here's the picture of the decals for next week's demo. And these actually happen to be decals that some of these, not all of them, I bought these, and these were decals that I made using rubber stamps. So that's another thing. But we will definitely do a few of the decals, so you get the idea of how you do it with the torch firing. All of these videos that I do, all these demos, they all are recorded, and they're saved on our group page. So you can go. There's some confusion about where you find the videos, but I guess a lot of people use their phones to do their to do all their stuff on, and I use my laptop most of the time. So the format might look a little bit different when you get into the group page, but under the picture in the group page, you know, the picture heading that's up there, then there's like this menu bar across the top, and media is one of the, you know, there's like home and discussion and or posts or something like that, and files. You'd go into that media tab, you click on media, and then there's a choice of photos, videos, and I think something else. So you go to videos, and then you can find all the videos that I do in that, on that page. The bad thing about that is you just see me in all of those little squares, each one of them, you know, meaning that it's a video, but has no title. So you actually have to click on the picture, and when you click on the picture, then the title of my demo comes up on the side. But, you know, if you wanted to find my etching demo or something, you'd have to probably, you know, go back a whole bunch of pictures to find that title. It's not the best of systems, but it's free, and you know, that's how Facebook has it set up. So, you know, if we have to do a little bit of digging to get where we want to go, I guess that's what we've got to do. So yeah, they're all replayable anytime you want to replay them. So I think sometimes you don't really have to give so much repetition of doing what you're doing, because you can replay those videos and watch them over again. So I think that makes perfect sense to me. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, and the files also, people. In the files, every demo that I do, I always provide a handout. So like today's will be listed in there in just a little while. If I can get my computer to work, I'm hoping I can transfer that later. I should be able to. If I can't get it today, it will be on there. But it also has a brief, you know, there's always pictures and different things of what I've done for all you visual people like me in there. So the files, you know, the files has all the handouts in it. So you should have access to all the information. And you can ask me anything too when you think about it. You can always ask a question in the group. Okay, so I think I've covered everything that I was going to do. I mean, it's pretty brief, but I gave you the resources of, you know, the paints and how to use them and how to store them and the little things that I use with them. And if you are a person that has a lampwork torch, you can fire on the lampwork torch. You don't have to use the canister with a hot head. I prefer the lampwork torch, but you know, I learned the hothead and the canister when I took classes, and I didn't know I was going to be doing lamp work, and that happened later. And since I have that, I use that all the time because that's out mounted permanently. Acetylene, no. Mine is, you know, lampwork torches, usually it's propane, or I have natural gas hooked up from outside my house. And then I have an oxygen concentrator. So, you know, that's a stationary unit, and, you know, it's always in that one position. So it's not like a metalsmithing torch. It's very different. And I think acetylene would be too hot. Probably burn the enamel all up. I don't know. I've never tried it, so I can't say for sure, but I don't think it would be easy to work with, number one. It needs to be hands-free, basically. So I think that is the issue, a part of it. Can I do the same with liquid enamels? Yes. Yeah, I use, yeah, the only thing that I put in the in the kiln was the enamel dishes, because they were a little bit large, although I think you could do those on a tripod with sufficient heat. But everything else I can do on the torch. It just seems, I don't know, it's very doable, at least for me. Jennifer, I will have to get natural gas hookup with the Reno. I'm not sure about that last word. I don't know. I had a plumber come in, and he just connected a line. But I mean, that was for lamp working. If you were just doing enameling, I would stick with the can and the hothead. I mean, it's perfectly doable. Oh, renovation. Okay, gotcha. All right. I guess it's a little shorter demo than usual, but I think you got the gist. At least I hope you got the gist of using the enamel paints. It's pretty simple. Next week, we're going to do the decals. I have several weeks of some fun stuff coming up, and I thought decals was probably, well, somebody had asked about decals, so we'll do that next. And then we'll do something not with enamels the time after that. Actually, I have a couple of them, non-enamel projects after that. So like I always ask, if you have something that you want me to demo, that if I know how to do it, I will be happy to put a little demo together for you guys. And if you're doing stuff, keep posting it on the group page. I enjoy watching all those things. So I hope to see you guys later on Facebook, and I will have that handout to you shortly, hopefully. All right, so take care, guys. Bye.